Geisinger Commonwealth Board of Directors and our board chair, Mr. Robert East, faculty, staff, and students, I thank you for joining us for the White Coat Ceremony for the class of 2021. As we welcome the members of Geisinger Commonwealth's newest class of professional medicine, you are now the 9th class of MD students at Geisinger Commonwealth, and with 113 students, you are now the largest class in our history. I'd like to start by recognizing the families of our incoming medical students. Will the parents of the members of the class please rise? Geisinger Commonwealth was founded by this community, and more than any other medical school, Geisinger Commonwealth is embraced by the community it serves. Thank you sincerely for your support. I'd also like to recognize the commitment and amazing work performed every day by a group of dedicated, talented people, the school's faculty and staff. Would members of our faculty and staff, including our volunteer faculty, please stand and be recognized. I'll ask you to hold your applause because you do have to rest your hands until everyone's introduced. I ask the stage party to stand as your name is called. Dr. Willie Diopst, Vice President for Academic and Clinical Affairs and Vice Dean for Medical Education. Our speaker today, Dr. Jerry Tracy. Dr. Tracy is a founder of our school and a champion of local medical education. You're going to hear a lot more about him as he is introduced formally as the Dr. Lester Saver Memorial Lecturer. But I do want to add one thing because a certain number of years ago, Dr. Tracy was a high school student in this building, which is pretty cool. As did all of his children, some of whom are with us today. Dr. Harry Wollman, Interim Senior Associate Dean for Undergraduate Medical Education. Dr. Tanya Adonisio, Associate Dean for Student Affairs. Dr. Bruce Sadie, Associate Professor of Medicine, who will provide the introduction for the Dr. Lester Saver Memorial Lecture. Dr. Michelle Schmoody, Associate Dean for Admissions, Enrollment Management, and Financial Aid, so all of these students know her really well. Dr. Janet Townsend is not here. She's going to be sitting in that chair. She's Regional Associate Dean for our South Campus. She's on her way from Denver and is delayed on the way. Dr. Shubhra Shetty, Regional Associate Dean for our North Campus. And I skipped Dr. Michael Ferraro, Regional Associate Dean for our South Campus, who we love at least as much as Dr. Shubhra Shetty. Please indulge me now as I offer some reflections to new members of the class of 2021. First of all, you are an impressive group. We already knew that, but look how impressive you are. With a remarkable diversity of experience, even though with an average age of 24.0 years, you are one of the youngest classes we've ever had. As with previous classes, only 34 of you come to us directly after receiving your bachelor's degree. Most of you have spent time either in graduate or in the workforce. 13 of you are already Geisinger Commonwealth alumni holding our Master's in Biomedical Sciences degree. You have among you a Fulbright scholar, a coach for the U.S. Soccer Federation, an Eagle Scout, a research assistant from the U.S. Armed Forces Research Institute of Medical Sciences in Thailand, a farmhand, an AmeriCorps volunteer, a respiratory therapist, a graphic designer, a nurse, a professional photographer, the founder of a video game review site, a chaplain, a paralegal, a music therapist, a number of serious athletes, including several runners who have completed marathons, several martial artists, one with a first and one with a second degree black belt. Musicians in the class include a pianist, violinist, flautist, bassoonist, saxophonist, drummer, violinist, trumpeter, clarinetist, several guitar players, and a concertmaster. Most of you speak another language, including almost half of you, 43 out of 110, not quite half, who speak Spanish. Several speak 4 languages, and one of you speaks 6 languages and also plays 5 instruments. Dancers among you do ballet, ballroom, and classical Indian dance. Many of you have traveled extensively, including a number who have performed service activities in countries like Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, India, Panama, Chile, Honduras, Kenya, Vietnam, Guatemala, and Argentina. We have one student who has traveled to 12 countries and another who has visited 42 states. 22 of you have graduate degrees, and 31 of you are the first member of your family to go to college. And one of you was the first high school Reach High student to be accepted in our medical school, and we're very proud of that. So clearly, you all have much to teach each other, well beyond what you will learn in class. Today, the faculty of Geisinger Commonwealth will cloak each of you with a white coat, a symbol of the professional obligation that you will bear proudly through your careers as physicians. There's never been a more exciting time to enter the medical profession. When I entered medical school more than 40 years ago, as hard as that may be to believe, we could never have dreamed of things like targeted monoclonal therapy and molecular diagnostics and robotic surgery and computerized medical records, pharmacogenomics, cancer immunotherapy, fetal surgery, magnetic resonance imaging, or the many other exciting tools and toys that we take for granted now. And since the pace of medical discovery continues to accelerate, we cannot even begin to imagine the many new modalities that will change medical care during the course of your careers. But what needs to remain constant throughout or even despite all of this is your relationship with the patient. Many things in our brave new world of modern medicine conspire to separate you from the patient. These technical advances can tempt you to focus on the technique more than the suffering patient. Technical advances have spawned subspecialization and subspecialization and fragmentation of care. These can distance you further from the person on the other end of your laparoscope. The burdens of documentation, approvals, electronic record, and pressures to see more patients haven't helped either. This is where oaths come in, the professional obligation. They remind you that through all of this, your relationship with the patient is central to your identity as a physician. So a little background on the oath. All American medical schools administer a version of the Hippocratic Oath at commencement. Actually, it's in no case the true Hippocratic Oath. It's always a variation on that. And this, even that, did not become widespread until after World War II. And it's still not a widespread practice in other countries. And the first time medical students were given an oath at the beginning of medical school, before they've even met their cadaver, was in 1993, just over 20 years ago, at Columbia, where Dr. Arnold Gold was a pediatric neurologist on the faculty. It was through the active efforts of the Arnold P. Gold Foundation that white coat ceremonies now take place at most medical schools in the United States. The oath you will be taking this afternoon is unique to Geisinger Commonwealth. It's relatively short, but encompasses the key elements of being a great physician. That your patients will be your first concern, that you are studying for their sake, that you acknowledge your limits, that you be gracious to your teachers and colleagues. This is not simply intended to be self-serving on our part, it's rather a reflection of that portion of the Hippocratic Oath. that in your studies and in your life, you will manifest the dignity and integrity that your future patients will expect of you, that you practice humility, and a paraphrase of the lovely phrase from the Oath of Maimonides, may I never see in the patient anything but a fellow creature in pain. I encourage you to keep this oath in your hearts, to reread it at regular intervals during your odyssey through medical school, to keep you in mind of your higher calling and your obligation to your future patients. And now, before introducing Dr. Adonisio, I will invite Dr. Townsend to take the stage, please. Let's give her some applause for making it through the crowd. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tanya Adonisio, the Associate Dean for Student Affairs.
Thank you, Dr. Scheinman, for those beautiful sentiments. We, and now you, as physicians, have a special obligation to keep our hearts and minds open and always to maintain our compassion, humility, and respect for others. And when Dr. Scheinman so eloquently described how to approach patients with dignity and humility, you may have been envisioning yourself doing so in some distant future, perhaps when you're a resident, a real doctor. Perhaps you think that's when you'll begin upholding your oath. Don't make that mistake. Your education here at Geisinger Commonwealth will introduce you early this year to clinical settings. You will begin the hard work of upholding your oath now. Medical school will test you. Sometimes the sheer volume of knowledge you're expected to acquire will seem overwhelming. Sometimes you'll feel sleep deprived. Sometimes the combination of these things will tempt you to jettison what you may think are the niceties like patience and basic courtesy. You may think it's okay just this once or just until that exam is over to speak sharply to your colleagues and not be fully present with your patients. This is when you should remember the oath you take today. This is the real time of trial. It isn't in the distant future when you know everything and you have the luxury of time, because that future will never come. As a doctor, you will forever learn and always wish for just 5 more minutes. So, as you take the oath today, realize it's a promise you'll begin to keep right away. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Bruce Seidman, who is here today representing the Seidman family. Dr. Seidman is Associate Professor of Medicine.
Good afternoon, students, parents, grandparents, members of the dais, Dr. Tracy. I'm Bruce Seidman, the youngest of Lester's 4 children. My sister Carol, certified grief counselor in oncology, and her husband, Dr. David Greenwald, my medical partner, and someone who knew my father as long as I have, are here. My sister, attorney Sheila Seidman, who's running for Luzerne County Council. That's my bold-faced political statement right now. And her significant other, Dr. Steve Cafferson, are here. My wife, Melissa. My son, Jacob, class of 2018. My son, Asa, Muhlenberg, class of 2018. I have another 2 sons who are at the Lollapalooza Festival in Chicago right now, so they're not here. And I have a brother who lives in Denver. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it today. I thought my job would be easy. I'd introduce our speaker, Dr. Tracy. I would read from a long list of accolades from colleagues, from students, have a seat, done deal. Instead, I was asked to speak about my father, Lester Seidman, and his relationship to the white coat ceremony. I'm not going to reiterate what is a well-written biography in your program. Instead, I had a dream. I had a dream the other night that my father was in. I see my family wincing. My sister Carol and I have a penchant for somewhat odd dreams that we are able to retell in vivid detail, much to the bewilderment of my family. But my father was in this dream. Granted, it happened around 3 a.m., shortly after I was woke from the ER about a call about one of my younger patients who was having a carcinoid crisis. That, plus realizing I had to put this talk together, probably would be an explanation to anybody involved in the audience in behavioral psych as why I had a proclivity for this dream. Regardless, I was on a dais similar to this one. I was scheduled to give some remarks and speak later in the ceremony. I was leafing through my notes, and my sister Sheila was coming up to the podium to introduce another speaker. When she slipped, I grabbed her by the arm, and we wound up at the podium together. Ever the politician, she put a very nice spin on things, and now my brother Bruce is going to talk. I wasn't quite ready. Thanks to some technical difficulties with the microphone, I had a moment to collect myself until I realized I was standing next to my father. This is really true. He was not wearing his white coat. I was quite used to seeing him in his white coat when he came out of the operating room or when he worked shifts in the emergency room. But he had on his typical doctor's outfit. Dress slacks, Oxford shirt, short sleeves in the summer, long sleeves in the winter. Custom designed, but not with one breast pocket, but two. One stuffed with patient notes, the other with tongue depressors, pen lights, scissors, and a sundry of other patient care tools. Not a look that nowadays would be called slim cut or athletic fit. I became somewhat exasperated with the continued audio problems, so I cut my hand over the microphone and I asked my father what he really thought about white coat ceremonies. Again, for a moment, I was somewhat panic-stricken, worrying that I may have a hot mic moment, you know, when you see politicians on TV say something they really don't want to say in public, but it's caught. But my father was always a gentleman, especially when he would speak about medical professionals in public. However, I knew from a very early age that many things and people resembled part of a horse's anatomy that I'm not really going to get into right now. But he turned to me, wearing his heavy horn-rimmed glasses, more retro than will ever become fashionable, cocked his head and had a sly half smile and was about to say something. I woke up. Desperately, I tried to fall back into my dream sequence to see what he would have to say. In addition, I'd like to brag about the management of my patient in the emergency room. Now here comes some medical stuff. I would use a short-acting analog of sandostatin. I would use a new drug, Tolerostat, which is an inhibitor of tryptophan hydroxylase, which mediates the rate-limiting step in serotonin biosynthesis. The pathway, all of which we expect you to know by your second day of class. Welcome to medical school. When in reality, my father would have given the patient 2 doses of steroids, had the patient on the floor, feeling better long before I could have even ordered the drugs from pharmacy. But no matter how desperately I tried to get back into this stream, it was to no avail. So we really will never know what my father thought about white coat ceremonies. I think he would have had some off-color, semi-snide remark, short but with a surprisingly deep meaning. I again am not going to reiterate what's written in the biography about my father. But I do see patients that he's seen, and they relate to me patient encounters. They tell me about life saved in the emergency room using a procedure that hasn't been done in our area before, or coming up with a diagnosis that even subspecialists couldn't. What I remember most are the little things. A patient tells me, I remember your father made a house call to my infant brother, racked with fevers, spent the night, and was not going to go until he was stable. I remember a gentleman who had a very lucrative career in the biomedical industry, who told me my father was responsible for him getting into that particular line of work. After putting some stitches in him when he was young in the emergency room, my father realized he was bright, had an interest in science. He made sure he spent time shadowing him, and he encouraged him not only to finish high school, but to go on to college, graduate work, and pursue the career in sciences that he had. There's a woman who lives in my neighborhood who related to my wife that as a young girl volunteering at the hospital, my father did her employee physical. He suggested gently, but in his way, that she needed to lose weight. He suggested she take the stairs rather than ride the elevators. This has led to a healthy lifestyle that she maintains until this day. I told my son when applying to medical school, no matter what field of medicine he will pursue, he will have an opportunity to make an impact on somebody's life on a daily basis. Each patient encounter, through your words, your actions, allows you that opportunity. I believe my father would feel that the white coat is an invitation to this amazing venue of medicine. It is the most important ticket you will ever have. I don't wear a white coat. To be politically correct, my wife says it's not flattering. That's not what she really says, but the white coat that Dr. Tracy wears, the white coat that Dr. Greenwalds wears, the white coat that my father wore is a metaphor. It's a white coat of caring. It's a white coat that compels you to do what is best for your patients. In an era that many patient encounters are marked by checking boxes on the computer, many of which have nothing to do with the care that you are rendering your patients, limited time spent with patient encounters. These are things that my father would say resemble that part of the horse's anatomy. We're not going to discuss that. But cloak yourself in your white coat and do what's best for your patient. That's what I think Lester would have thought of a white coat ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Seidman. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. William Yobst. I am the Vice Dean for Medical Education and Vice President for Academic and Clinical Affairs at Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine. It is my great privilege to introduce to the class of 2021 Dr. Jerry Tracy. We are honored to have him as our white coat speaker. To the class of 2021, this ceremony is your introduction to the profession of medicine, and I cannot imagine a more appropriate individual to offer comments on the importance of this moment. You will hear later in this presentation about the profound success and recognition that Dr. Tracy has achieved as a cardiologist, but more importantly, for countless medical students, residents, and practicing physicians. Dr. Tracy is the epitome of the physician's physician. And for that reason, he is ideally suited to make comments and welcome you to this wonderful profession. If you are from northeastern Pennsylvania, you know the well-worn joke that everybody knows everyone else, and that the true 6 degrees of separation are really actually only 4. But for Dr. Tracy, there's something truthful in that. All around us, if there are improvements in the welfare and well-being of our fellow citizens and our healthcare delivery systems, they can likely be traced to something that Dr. Tracy did. For instance, we would not be here today without Dr. Tracy. He is a founding member of the Medical Education Development Consortium, which in 2004 saw the need for a medical school in northeastern Pennsylvania. This grassroots effort led to the creation of the Commonwealth Medical College, now Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine. However, Dr. Tracy's interest in medical education began far before his advocacy for the creation of the medical school. It has been a priority of his throughout his career, beginning with his service to the Scranton Temple Residency Program as a Board of Director member, now the Wright Center. For his work with that residency program, Dr. Tracy was awarded the Charles Boast Scranton Temple Residency Program Award. In addition to helping bring graduate medical education to this region, Dr. Tracy also was instrumental in ensuring that local medical students always had the chance to attend medical school. At his alma mater, the University of Scranton, he served as the founding president of the Medical Alumni Council, a body that offers pre-medical students mentoring and education about healthcare-related fields, networking assistance, and guidance on medical school admissions. For that work, Dr. Tracy was awarded Scranton's Frank O'Hara Award for Distinguished Achievements in Medicine and an honorary doctorate of letters. Dr. Tracy has also worked tirelessly to improve medical care in northeastern Pennsylvania. He's a founding partner of Great Valley Cardiology, served as Director of Cardiovascular Disease and President of the Medical Staff at Mercy Hospital in Scranton, now Regional Hospital. He also served as President of the Keystone Chapter of the American Heart Association and as President of the American College of Cardiology, Eastern Pennsylvania. He has also held multiple leadership roles in the Pennsylvania Medical Society beginning in 1975 and the Lackawanna County Medical Society since 1976, including serving as co-editor of the Society's quarterly journal and on its board of directors. Most recently, Dr. Tracy was named the 2017 recipient of the Pennsylvania Medical Society's Distinguished Service Award. This award was first awarded in 1956 to Jonas Salk, MD. Since that time, it has been awarded to 26 Pennsylvania physicians and 2 non-physicians, and is literally considered the highest award a member of that organization can achieve. Dr. Tracy received his medical degree from the University of Pennsylvania, and his residencies in internal medicine and fellowship in cardiology at SUNY Upstate Medical Center. He's board certified in internal medicine and cardiology, is a fellow of the American College of Cardiology, the American College of Physicians, and the American Society for Angiography. These accomplishments are certainly impressive, but even more impressive is his ability to impart upon our students the essence of why medicine is such a noble profession. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Tracy is the physician's physician. He is what we all aspire to be. Simply put, there's no better role model. So please help me in welcoming a founder of the medical school, a friend and great champion to Northeastern Pennsylvanians, and a true gold standard role model for each member of the class of 2021 as they begin their professional journeys as physicians. Dr. Jerry Tracy.
Well, if I was nervous before, I'm petrified now. I think you have the wrong CV, Dr. Yobst, but in any event, I'll do my best. Thank you for joining us as a community for the 9th White Coat Ceremony. Special congratulations to the class of 2021, as well as to your parents and friends. A special thank you should be extended to the Seidman family, as well as my dear friend in the front here, Mr. Alan Goldstein, who is a tremendous supporter of the school in every way you could think of. We're especially happy to salute our students for the success in attaining a place in this class. It was very competitive. We had well over 6,000 applications. We had over 600 interviews, and we had a few thousand hours of meetings. I just threw that in. The White Coat Ceremony indeed has a long history. Actually, it goes back to the Muslim world, and 1,000 years ago, in the Islamic world, the white toga, the white garment, was to signify a person of the healing society. Later, it was reintroduced, as Dr. Scheiman said, at Columbia, and it's spread throughout the world. It is basically a symbol, and I want to say this very slowly, it represents the beginning of your life as a physician. That's what it signifies. Just being here today represents endless hours of effort and study, as you well know. However, just as the white coat marks the beginning of your next phase of education, your entire medical career will be founded on scholarship and continuing medical education. As the philosopher Solon said in 572 BCE, I grow old while always learning. This sentiment was updated by none other than Karl Marx when he said the education of most people ends with graduation. For a physician, it's a lifetime of incessant study. The commitment to continuous learning is as true today as it was then. It was recently pointed out by Dr. Elizabeth Rosenthal in her book, An American Sickness. Medicine is still a noble profession, even as the healthcare sector has faced a future of great uncertainty. Many of the best and brightest students are flocking to medical school, and aside, that's you. And the reason is they want to treat patients with patient-centered, evidence-based medicine. Now that should sound familiar because that is exactly the same as our mission statement. I pray you endorse and exemplify these goals. Okay, that's some theory. How do you best make the transition from an eager medical student to an accomplished physician? Aristotle described this transition as going from a grasp of isolated facts, which you will learn, to knowledge, and hopefully, and finally, wisdom. As an educational axiom points out, medicine cannot be taught. It has to be learned. Your mentors will provide you guidance, but it is not just a situation of presenting medical facts. It will require active participation on your part. Medicine is an especially challenging field because of the necessity for continued advancement and research. As a result, it has been estimated that in 5 years, 50% of what you bang into your head over the next 4 years will be found to be wrong. The problem is, you don't know what 50%. How can you make this transition? I have thought hard on this, and I don't want to give you just a lot of random advice. So, most physicians know of a gentleman named William Osler, who is probably the most influential man in medicine and medicine education in modern history. As a young physician, I was given a wonderful book of Dr. Osler that provides far more insight than I could ever engender. And so permit me to borrow from Dr. Osler's Equanimitas. He basically had 3 principles. Principle 1, acquire the art of commitment. Commitment. From day 1, you will exponentially increase your vocabulary and exposure to new ideas. Most teachers will tell you it's really not difficult with your background, but the increasingly acquired knowledge is voluminous and cumulative. Many exceptionally bright students could get away in college with cramming. Sadly, those days are gone forever. Trust me. It is the daily attention to material that is demanded. Also, you will realize in this process, it's not just me that is important. You will have to interact with faculty and classmates as you have never done before. As one of our previous students said, and I love this, if you want to get lost, this is the worst school in the United States. Why? Because we are a committed team, all trying to better ourselves, our patients, and you are now an integral part of that team. You will talk to friends in other fields that provide substantial and early monetary rewards. If that's your goal, and incidentally, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're in the wrong place. The reward in medicine is not on a monetary basis. You'll be comfortable, but it's not the mark of a good student or physician. I hope that deep down, you are committed to the motto of this high school where we are now gathered, which is the Magis, men and women for others. And aside, to parents and family, the students needs continued emotional support, halfway, especially through the first year. Your student is changing while working harder than they had ever worked before. But remember this, according to our upperclassmen, second, third, and fourth years are not only more enjoyable and rewarding, but they're easier. So hang on through that first year. Principle 2. Osler describes the virtue of method or systems. This is one of the main thrusts of medical education today. We often use the words systems or competencies interchangeably. We measure everything. However, medicine is an art, but not a perfect science. Thus, one not only has to exhibit commitment, but daily develop reproducible instincts to approach patients and problems. You will, for example, develop a progression in your ability to take histories and also your physical diagnostic skills. But it's a slow process. The transformation of a student to an accomplished physician is ultimately the ability to accept and handle medical responsibility. Third principle, humility. Dr. Osler cited a third essential principle to a physician, and he called it the grace of humility. You will, during your time here, meet a physician who is even older than I am. His name is Stanley Dudrick. He's sitting here in the front. And seeing him speaking with students, or preparing a lecture, or writing a recommendation, you would never guess that he has written hundreds of scientific papers. Stan, would you mind standing, please? I know I'm embarrassing him, but I have to do it. Now, I'll give you one credential he has, and if you ever try to introduce him, which I've done, it takes forever. But he's been voted as one of the 50 most influential physicians in the history of medicine worldwide. Why? The reason is his work with hyperalimentation. That has resulted in saving 8 million premature babies and 10 million adults worldwide. The only thing about him that has changed in the 50 years I've known him is his towering reputation. Dr. Dudrick came by the grace of humility far more naturally than I did. I was sort of hit over the head with it, and permit me to give you a short personal story, which I usually don't like to do, but I think it's appropriate. I had just finished my internship year and entered the United States Air Force, was stationed over in Southeast Asia, and I felt confident that I'd conquered this medicine bed. I was stationed in Taiwan, and I was allowed for 1 day a week to do missionary work. And I worked with a physician who was a Maryknoll Catholic nun. And everyone called her Sister Doctor. In 7 months, I never knew her name, nor did I ever ask her name. She would solicit my opinion on problem cases, and I would do my best to pontificate. She once suggested Kala-Azar as a diagnosis, and I quickly dismissed it as a possibility. Fast forward now, 2 years. My internal medicine residency, infectious disease rotation, and we had a very challenging patient from Asia. And our attending turned to me, knowing that I had been stationed in Taiwan, and he asked me if I'd ever been lucky enough to meet a woman physician who was the world's expert on Kala-Azar. By the way, she was a Maryknoll Catholic nun. Now, that's one way to learn humility, but I want to just caution you about something, and I'm dead serious about that. I think the biggest enemy you have is cynicism. A healthy skepticism is good. Cynicism is a cancer. We never know as much as we think we know. And what we do know, we learn by listening to our parents, patients, teachers, and each other. In 2013, our first graduating class wrote an oath for graduation, as opposed to today's. And I think it's wonderful. It ends with the following words: I will be a doctor, a student, and a teacher beyond the confines of the bedside, in the community, and in my daily life. In doing so, I will cure sometimes, relieve pain often, and comfort always. Today, finally, as I'm standing up here and looking at you, I see unlimited potential. Thank you very much. Continue to engage in your transition to physician. We welcome you today as our colleagues in this great field.
Dr. Tracy, on behalf of Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine, thank you for your inspiring remarks and for delivering the Dr. Lester Saidman Memorial Lecture. As recognition of that, I'd like you to accept this plaque. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michelle Schmude for the presentation of the White Coats. Dr. Schmude.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Tracy, thank you for sharing your inspiring remarks with us. It's my pleasure to call the students forward to receive their white coats. Presenting the white coats to the class of 2021 will be Dr. Michael Ferraro and Dr. Shubhra Shetty. Will the students of the class of 2021 please stand to receive your white coats? I ask the audience to hold their applause until all the students have received their white coats. Matthew Adams. Anis Adnani. Jordan R. Alter. Alexander Anzelmi. Jonathan Behrman. Michael Belko. Shijo Benjamin. William Bird. Hannah Renee Bohr. Alexa Bullock. Brandon Bombar. George Howard Bordage. Joseph M. Brudico. Meredith L. Berger. Matthew Bush. Daniel Caridio. Elliot D.K. Cha. Kelly Chan. Jing Ran Chen. Shada Chabria. Maruk Chowdhury. Sana Chufei. Corey Coleman. Max M. Cornell. Elena Craig Lucas. Garrison Michael Davis. Erin Margaret Dickey. Andre D'Souza. Sashank Ducey. Miriam Eagleson. Brittany Ehrlich. Brian V. Entler. Timothy Farrell. Mary Fay. Regino Miguel Flores. Ilya Frid. Tara Fritz. Rachel L. Fulton. Osama Guman. Nicole Alexandra Gilman. Amanda Getz. Camille Gonzalez. Nina Ha. Sarah Heisey. Sarah Hennings. Emily Herman. David Hinnenkamp. Adam D. Howell. Mark Incity. Stephen Jacqua. Jennifer Jordan. Dane Justice. Bridget Nicole Keehan. Kelly Keenan. Kylie Kerr. Jessica L. Knapp. Tara Knox. Ryan Kozlowski. Saran Kunapriyun. Kenneth Lamb. Jonathan B. Livesey. Haley Lombardo. Jonathan Long. Megan Catherine Lauser. Wojciech Losos. Connor P. Lynch. Connor M. Magura. Jenna Maxine Marinock. Alex Magoo. David McPherson. Blake Mello. Charmine Mian. Demi Ariel Miller. Alexa Mills. Anthony Murata. Matthew Moran. Mara E. Morgan. Eric Moyer. Alyssa Machiski. Christine Murphy. Cynthia Akpala. Kishan Patel. Neil Patel. Rachel Piney. Joshua Pettingill. Andres E. Rodriguez. Gabriela Santa Lucia. Jasmine M. Santos. Lauren Schumacher. Cameron Shabahang. Deepam T. Shah. Julia Seamus. Kevin J. Simpson. Lauren Skidalski. Catherine G. Snyder. Elizabeth Stackhouse. Michelle Stefanelli. Faith Stewart. Jessica L. Stewart. Cecilia Strouch. Madison Stroney. Daniel J. Silvestri. Navindra Tejeshwar. Robin Snow Tanner. Alex Fox Thompson. Jeremy Tokash. Carolina Trokia. Elizabeth Lynn Tupper. Jacob Wallace. Thaddeus Wright. Michael Zaleski. Let's have a round of applause for our students. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce Dr. Janet Townsend, who will lead the class in reciting the oath. Dr. Townsend?
May I ask the class of 2021 to please stand and join me as we recite the medical student oath, which can be found in your program. As a physician in training, this will be my first concern. I will strengthen myself with the knowledge and compassion to care for them. I will acknowledge my limits, seeking help when needed. I will be gracious with my teachers and colleagues. I will manifest the dignity and integrity inherent in the noble profession to which I aspire. I will treat everyone thoughtfully and with respect. At all times, may I never see in the patient anything but a person in need. This oath I take freely upon my honor. Please join me in congratulating the class of 2021.
Allow me to be the first to say, welcome to the profession of medicine. You all look fabulous in your new white coats. You have already begun the hard work of becoming a doctor. It involves learning a lot of facts, yes, but those are not nearly as important as learning how to gather and process information, how to think like a doctor, how to become a lifelong learner. If 50% of the information we give you is going to become irrelevant and we don't know which 50% that is, as Dr. Tracy likes to point out, what's more important is that you know how to process information, you know how to ask the right questions, and you know how to seek the most current information, whether it's what you were taught in medical school or what became known 10 years later. Our curriculum has you working with patients from the very beginning, as Dr. Adonisio said. So these white coats will soon be your work clothes, but they can be a danger too. Some doctors succumb to the temptation to think of their white coat as a shield or a barrier or a status symbol. Taking care of patients is a frightening thing. The responsibility is intimidating, and more than that, the patient's illness is a frightening thing. It reminds you that you are vulnerable, that you are mortal. If you are not grounded and mature and comfortable with your own mortality, it's hard to be there for your patients as you need to be. That's a lot to expect, and it is something that the white coat really does not help with. Some doctors create a distance between themselves and the patients as a defense mechanism. They stand at the foot of the bed using the long Latin terms that we will teach you, talking about the patient in the third person, wearing their white coat proudly, as if it says to the patient that you are above them, as if it says that you are safe from becoming like that patient. You won't be one of those doctors. You were selected from a large pool on the basis of not just your academic excellent records, but more importantly, your experiences and your character. And the values of Geisinger Commonwealth, which are woven into our curriculum, are focused on the patient. You will be as well. You will come to see this white coat not as a symbol of status, but as a reminder that your role is one of service to the community and to your patients. And in that spirit, you should wear it proudly. This year, for the first time, we created a new tradition. We required of all the first-year students to read a book before coming in. That book was Being Mortal by Dr. Atul Gawande. So I recommend for any of you in the medical profession who haven't read it, don't go to bed tonight before you've finished it. And beyond the medical profession, any of you who think that someday you might get sick, someday you might have a terminal illness, any of you who aspire to growing old, and if I've left out anybody else, you too, should read that book. And yesterday, we had sessions with these students discussing that book and what it means for becoming a doctor. How it means that being a doctor is a lot more than the information that you will learn to process or the thought processes that we will teach you, but in fact, the ability to listen to the patient, to engage with the patient, and to be there for that patient, to care for them. The discussion in my group of 9 students was remarkable. These students, and I'm not surprised because our admission process is really good at finding students who are like this. The discussion, those students were insightful, self-aware, and reflective. And I will be very surprised if my group was any different from the other groups that discussed the book. And that gives me every confidence that you as a class, more than any other class getting their white coats this week in the United States, will be there for your patients as Dr. Gawande would expect you to be. So if the parents in this room don't know what I'm talking about, haven't read the book, read that book. You'll be very proud of what I just said to your kids. So to Geisinger Commonwealth's class of 2021, I offer, with excitement, my sincere welcome to Geisinger Commonwealth and to the medical profession. And to the audience, I ask that you remain seated while our students in the stage party and I exit. I invite everyone to a reception at the Medical Sciences Building at 525 Pine Street. Thank you.